Hi you guys, Mimsy here. So I'm getting ready to make a duvet cover out of this beautiful herringbone gray fabric, and I just wanted to show you the first thing that you want to do is cut yourself a couple pieces like these two here, exactly the same size when you cut them out. So just cut out a 4x4 square or a 6x6 square, whatever you do, and wash and dry one of the pieces so that you can see what the fabric looks like after it's been laundered and how much the shrinkage is. So this is the piece that I laundered and this is the piece that I did not. So when you line this up, you're gonna see now these are not cut totally square, so try to cut your fabric square, that way you know. But anyway, on the warp of the fabric, I've got about a 1/2 inch of shrinkage here, and on the weft there's about a 1/4 inch of shrinkage here. So take that into account or pre-wash your fabric. The reason why you want to pre-wash just a small piece is because if your fabric doesn't wash well, like meaning if it starts to pill right from the start, or if your fabric, it has a lot of wrinkles and you don't like the look of the fabric once it's laundered, then you know before washing all this yardage that you just don't like the way it looks once it's washed. So you might want to choose a different fabric for a duvet cover, because obviously a duvet cover is going to be washed frequently. So now I am about to cut my fabric for the duvet cover, and I've got it laid out on my cutting table. I have a 4 by 8 cutting table, and I've already cut my first edge straight, square, and on grain, which is super important because when they cut it in the fabric store, it's never straight or square. Make sure that you check out that video on how to start off your fabric. So I've already measured out 90 inches, and at this end, because I know that my table is square, my fabric is lined up square on both sides of my table, I marked out a line here to cut along, and now I'll cut my fabric to 90 inches. Okay, so now that I've got it cut to the proper length, I'm going to fold it in half and cut this whole 90-inch length in half, because I need to have a full width down the center of my bed and then the half widths on each side of my bed, because my duvet cover needs to be 82 inches wide is what I measured. I took my tape measure into my bedroom and measured down to where I want the duvet cover to stop, because I do have a velvet bed frame and I don't want to cover that whole bed frame. A standard duvet is, for a queen size bed, is 90 by 90, but I don't want mine to go that far down because I have a bed frame that I don't want to cover. 90 by 90 would be the proper size if you were wanting to cover your box spring with your duvet cover. Okay, now that's perfectly in half. So now I've got these two pieces, and I need to cut them down to 15 inches wide, because my middle section is going to be 55 inches. That's what it is from selvage to selvage. And then my side pieces, I need 84 inches total wide. So including my 1/2 inch seam allowance, these need to be cut down to 15 inches a piece. So I'm going to do this the easy way with my rotary cutter, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the selvage on this because it's not causing it to pucker, although now that I say that, I think I'll cut it off, because when you wash it, it does altogether a different thing. Okay. Now I've got my two pieces that are both 15 inches, and now I need to pin these to the outside of my center 55-inch piece. So I'm going to lay that out on my table and pin these. Okay, now I'm pinning down the other side. And I'm sorry, I just realized that I had my camera set to the wrong shutter speed. So that's why part of this video, the beginning of this video, was like my actions were delayed because I had my shutter speed set wrong. So sorry about that. I'm going to pin down the other side, all the way down this side as well, and then take it to the sewing machine and sew these two seams. All right, so here we are at my sewing machine. Got all this fabric pinned, and I'm just gonna sew a straight seam right down the edge of my selvage. Sometimes I will sew right up to my pins, and sometimes I'll even sew over them. If I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit of shifting in my fabric, then I'll sew over it in order to straighten that out. Now I'll take that and press it after I sew the other side. Okay, so the seams are pressed, and now I'm ready to attach the welt all the way around 3 sides. Okay, so I have my top layer of my duvet cover laid out on my sewing table or my cutting table, and I've got my welt already created, and I do have a video on how to make welt, so you can check that out here. I'll link to that. And I'm going to go ahead and pin my welt to the top layer of my duvet cover all the way around the 2 sides and the bottom or the foot part of the duvet cover, not around the top because that's where it's going to be open in order to allow the duvet to be inserted inside the cover, and then I'll put buttons at the top, so only around 3 sides. And here's a close-up of the welt pinned onto the top part of the duvet cover and the corner, the bottom corner, so you can get a feel for what that looks like close up. Obviously, you want to put a snip in the corner so it'll turn. And then take that to the sewing machine and sew all the way around. Yesterday I got this, the top to the duvet cover pretty much done. We sewed the 3 pieces together and put the welt on the outside. And then I went to my local Salvation Army and I picked up this white king size flat sheet, which is going to be for the back side of my duvet cover. And I've already washed it and dried it, and it's 100% cotton. And it's perfect. It's got these little, let's see if I can, probably won't be able to get them on camera, but it's got these little tiny polka dots on it. It's like a tone on tone. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, it's 100% cotton and it's a great sheet, and it was $3.99, I think. So I thought about just running over to Home Goods because it's right close to me, but I would have had to gotten a king sheet set, and that would have cost probably $40. So don't disregard your thrift store, your local thrift store. Okay, so now I'm going to sandwich these together. We're going to do them right side to right side. So I'm going to find the top band and I'll put that at the top, right side to right side. I've already got my duvet cover laid on my table with the right side up. Okay, so I'm going to lay this out, flatten it all out, and pin it together, and then I'll sew it. I have 20 inches here, or really 21 inches here. I could probably make some pillowcases out of that. We'll see. It's all sewn together, so I'm going to flip it around, turn it right side out, see how my seams look, and then determine how I'm going to close the top up. I think I'm going to do buttons and buttonholes, but we'll see. So here's the top, and then there's the underneath. See and then you can kind of see the polka dots on the sheet. Maybe not. And here's the top. And this is what you'll see on the edge of the bed. and see the seam. So I've got my duvet cover inside out, so this is the inside, and I'm going to close up the end. And what I decided to do is I'm going to put buttons and buttonholes. I've already pinned the front, so I rolled that over and did a double 1-inch hem, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So just make sure that you have your 2 pieces of fabric laid out nice and flat and even, so it might be better just to lay it on the floor and do this, and I'll show you how this looks closer. My cat is grabbing onto the other end. So here's the edge, and I'll pin this in and sew that in as well. So that's the welt, and I took the actual cording out of there so that this will lay flat up here. I cut it out about right here. So I will sew the seam here and then sew the seam on the lining side, and then I'll re-sew this seam here so that it's nice and closed up, and it'll look like that. And then I'll put the buttonholes on this side and the buttons on this side, and that's how this will close up around the duvet. And then what I'll do is I'm going to put a ribbon loop on each corner. I'll put a ribbon loop, I'll put a ribbon loop on all 4 corners, and then on the duvet I'll attach a ribbon, like this. I'll fold it in half and sew it on there so that I can tie this ribbon from the duvet to the corner loops in the duvet cover, so that the whole thing will stay put. Okay, and now I'm putting in my buttonholes. I decided to put them in on the front of the duvet cover, and I like to mark my buttonhole top and bottom with pins so that I know where to start and stop my buttonholes, and I'll have to do a separate video on how to put in buttonholes. But there's a complete buttonhole. I haven't cut it open yet, but that's what my buttonholes will look like. And then now with the ribbon, what I was talking about with the ribbon is I'm just sewing on a little bit of a ribbon loop there so that I can tie my duvet cover to that loop, and that will hold the corners of my duvet cover in place with that loop. And there it is, all finished and installed on my bed.